Okay, so next episode in my Netflix mini-series of me moving to New York City and my first impressions. And yeah, I want to talk about what I did, how I survived, I suppose. Uh, wasn't able to work initially, didn't have a green card, was going through that process. So I had to get odd jobs. So this was 2010, good old Craigslist. And there seemed to be an abundance. I got some jobs. My first job was working, giving out flyers on the subway. So as you go down the subway, you go down the steps, sometimes at Union Square, sometimes on the Upper West Side, sometimes in Brooklyn, just handing out flyers for different restaurants, normally restaurants. So yeah, stood there in rush hour, probably from 7 a.m. to 9. And then sometimes on an evening, 4 till 6, 5 till 7, that kind of time. So done that in addition to other odd jobs. Another job I got off Craigslist was being not a doorman, but it was more like a greeter, I suppose. It was a private loft owned by somebody in Chinatown, on Broadway, Lafayette. And it was a party on a Sunday from 3 till late. And I just had to wear a suit, look cute, and check people in. This was people who were only on a guest list. This was a private event, so it wasn't just strangers coming up. So I had to book these people in. They rock up, say their name, sign them off. Most of these people were European as well. And like I said, the space was owned by a European person. And I was getting, I think, about $20 or $30 an hour for that then. And going back to the flyer thing, I think that was between $15 and $20. It was a long time ago. But the loft gig, the doorman, I suppose, concierge, whatever you want to call it, to the party, that was every Sunday. That was a pretty sweet gig. I would check people in between 3 and maybe 5, depending. And then I'd go upstairs and just, kind of make drinks. There was a bar in there, I remember. But it was good fun. It was kind of seeing how it was New York's elite. Lots of wealthy people went in there. And I remember the first or the second time I did it, and I was walking around with the owner, and she was saying this, and when you've done the checking in downstairs, come up and just kind of serve drinks to people and like mingle and that kind of thing. And there were 2 older guys there with suits on, and she was showing them around. And one guy, I can't do it because I'm sat down here, he pulled his jacket back and put his hands on his hips like this, and he had a pistol on his hip. First time I'd seen it, So I said to her after, I said, "Who are them people with a gun?" He said, "Oh, they're off-duty NYPD. They're here just earning a bit of money." They were kind of security advisors for her. And yeah, so there was people having a good time. Lots of things were going on at that party, as you can imagine. And yeah, at the end of the night, I'd go and $30 an hour times 5, $150. And I'd normally get like an extra $100 bill in there. So it wasn't a bad gig. She was a nice person. And I'd done that for 3 or 4 months. So yeah, ran the gamut. Most of the jobs are from Craigslist. Most of the jobs, $20, $30 an hour. I remember one gig, and that was quite in its early stages too. It was a couple of nights a week at first. Anyone that knows Times Square, I think it's called the M&M Theatre now. It was called a Nokia Theatre in my day. And there was a concession in there that previewed and kind of demonstrated the latest Nokia phones. This is 2010, remember? And I got a gig in there just kind of demoing these phones. People would enter into a competition on the phone. You do a live demo of the phone, saying this is the latest from Nokia. And notice you don't hear much about Nokia anymore. Great brand. I had lots of Nokia phones back in the day. But yeah, they've gone in a different direction. And so demoing the phone, entering them into competition to upgrade their seats and get free drinks. And I think that was paying $20 or $25 an hour. So it wasn't bad for 2010 and for what I was doing. So you do that from, I think, 6 till 8. Gigs started about 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then you could go and see the gig if you want. So I saw Alicia Keys there when Jay-Z jumped in. If anyone remembers and was at that gig, that was 2010. Or it might have been early 2011, when it was still called Nokia Theatre in Times Square, and Alicia Keys was doing New York, and Jay-Z then came in, because I heard somebody say, Jay-Z's outside. And again, I'd only been in New York for a few months, so didn't really know, and all of a sudden he jumped in. But yeah, I saw Linkin Park, Stone Temple Pilots, many people. But it was a good gig. Then you could get free drinks afterwards, so yeah, it was a good gig. So there was lots of good gigs that I got from Craigslist, because that was really all I could do. And I got to meet some great people and make some good contacts. So yeah, really running the gamut all the way to, what else did I do? I worked at Costco. So if you've ever been in Costco, you have the little kind of displays. People stood giving out these free samples. It wasn't that. It was companies that were potentially going to become a product at Costco. That Costco was kind of deciding whether they want to carry that product. And I would go in, me and another person, normally 2 people, and demo and sell these particular products for a week, 2 weeks. Gourmet cheese, gourmet cakes, gourmet cookies and biscuits, chips, that kind of thing. Crisps, if you're watching in the UK, as I used to call them. So that was pretty good. You got lots of product. It wasn't bad paid. From memory, again, it was a long time ago. $15, $20 an hour. So you got to keep lots of product that you didn't use at the end. So that was a benefit of that. Done that for a while. Yeah, handing out flyers. That was kind of the name of the game. When they brought out new M&Ms, or if they brought out a new soda, you stand on the side of the street in like a branded t-shirt, experiential marketing they call it, in a branded t-shirt, giving out free samples, or just giving out samples, boom, just giving a bottle of the new Prime or something. So they were always good gigs. They were easy, they were sociable, and yeah, that was kind of my life for a little while. And it was interesting. It was interesting. I was just thrown into it. And then I started to get more. I was registering with these multiple different agencies and people and companies. And there was one gig in particular where they needed people to serve at private parties. So, if somebody had a private party at their house or at work, and they needed people to serve hors d'oeuvres or cocktails or whatever. I wasn't a barman, and a lot of those gigs they just want you to pour a glass of wine or open a beer and give it to somebody. And while that wasn't a massive amount an hour, in those kind of environments with food and drink, you get lots of tips. That's the one good thing about working in that service industry, or the service industry in America compared to the UK. You get tips. It's always good. You might, most of the time you're going to get a lower hourly rate, but the tips are going to be where you make the money. And yeah, I remember doing multiple different gigs. One's at Christmas, private parties at people's houses in, if you know the area, Short Hills in New Jersey, near Short Hills Mall, a very affluent area in New Jersey. And, you know, serving cocktails, serving hors d'oeuvres, serving small plates of food, that kind of thing. Just again, all dressed in black, looking pretty, or as pretty as I could look. You know, this was over 10 years ago, so obviously I was prettier than I am today. That was always a good gig, working with some cool people, visiting people's nice apartments or houses normally, seeing how the other half lived. That was always an interesting gig. And again, tips. Yeah, I remember, you know, you potentially could work, let's say 6 hours at $20 an hour. That's $120 an hour. That's $120 for that shift. But you could get a $100 tip at the end. So that's, you've made over $200 for a 6 hour shift. So not bad. Not bad. Yeah, it was always good to do them kind of gigs. Do miss that kind of thing. Whiskey tastings. I do whiskey tastings myself. I've been studying, going off on a tangent. I've been studying whiskey for the last couple of years, in particular Japanese whiskey. And I did a couple of whiskey tastings in New York, serving. One for Macallan and one for Maker's Mark. So the one for Macallan, they were sampling a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, an 18, a 21. So it was expensive stuff. And we were just, you had somebody there, can't remember, I think it was from Macallan, and he was explaining the history of Macallan and the flavor profiles of the different ones, pairing it. They had like little light bites and chocolates and things that you pair whiskey with. And we were just taking out trays. There was probably 100 more people in this room, and just taking out trays of the 10-year-old, of the 12, of the 18, the 21. So we got lots of free samples doing that. That was over, I think, 2 or 3 days. So little things like that were always interesting to do. And I really don't know of that market now. One, I don't live in New York anymore, and two, I haven't needed to do that kind of work for a long time now. So I don't know. I'm guessing it still happens. Experiential, guerrilla marketing, you know, the gig economy, they used to call it, where anybody, if you've got a personality, you look half decent, you can earn some decent money on a regular basis. You know, you might be going to Short Hills Mall tonight. Tomorrow I might be in Brooklyn. The night after I might be in Manhattan. The night after I might be in Secaucus, New Jersey. Whatever, you know. It could be anywhere. But flexibility and good rates of pay. So, yeah, again, I don't know what it's like at the moment. I'm sure it still goes on. Especially in the creator economy nowadays. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to know if anyone's in that game still, if they've just started doing it. A lot of people that I worked with in New York were kind of aspiring actors and actresses. People that would maybe just come to the city like me, looking for something different, having to survive. You got to do what you got to do. That's the bottom line. Your biggest asset is your ability to earn money. However you do it, legally, however you do it. So, yeah, you've just got to do what you got to do. And sometimes you got to do things that you don't want to do. And yeah, I think it was always a case of I needed to survive. What could I have done? You know, I had access to some money. I had a little pot of money that I brought with me, but it went to King's ransom. And I didn't want to eat into that. I need to survive and live and earn some money. So yeah, lots of different jobs that I did, and the majority of them were very fun and exciting, and I got to meet some great people. So yeah, I'd like to hear from anyone in the comments if they've done anything like that in the past, even all the way back to 2010, and if they do it now. Anywhere in the world, doesn't matter. That kind of guerrilla marketing on a new product really raises brand awareness. It still works, you know, street teams and things like that, they call it. So yeah, my life kind of changed a little bit after that, and then I worked in an AT&T store on Long Island, and yeah, that was again a little bit different, working in the store this time. And then I got a job in business development for a media company in Manhattan. And that was my then first role doing something, I suppose, steady. This was a steady professional role that I could pull on experiences from my previous 10 years in IT with working with technology and managing projects and things of that nature. So it kind of went from what I had to do out of necessity to something that was a bit more professional, I suppose. I use the word, the creative stuff wasn't unprofessional, but this was more steady and more in line with my experiences that I'd gathered thus far up to that point with the last 10 years in IT, like I said. And yeah, then moved into real estate, like I touched on, I think, in the initial video. And I'll do another video on that because that's a whole multiple episodes subject. And for somebody who was never in real estate, I studied civil engineering at college. I was never in real estate in the UK, and it works a little bit differently to New York, just the structure of it. And yeah, I never realized that I would then get into that. And like I said, that came by default because I was going to buy a house, and I used Groupon a lot, and I saw this Groupon for a real estate license for $99 and decided to take it, if only for education purposes. And yeah, that then led me to work in real estate for about 6 or 7 years. So that's a whole nother story. So if you like what you heard, I'm going to keep going with this. This is really interesting to me, and just to give people an idea of what it's like to, one, emigrate, and two, especially to New York City, and all the things that come with that, the good and the bad, and then lots of comparisons to the last 10 years of my life in New York, and more recently in Tulsa, where I am now, and the comparisons between that and the UK. So again, hope you liked what you heard today. Hope you enjoy watching, and this inspires me to make more content, people watching, and again, if you've got any comments, please leave them below. I'd love to hear from people who maybe have made similar moves. If you've moved to New York as well, and if you're British, that would be fantastic. And of course, if you've ever worked in experiential or guerrilla marketing in New York or any city in the world, it'd be good to hear from you and get a different perspective to mine. So again, if you like what you heard today, please like and subscribe. Click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification so you can know of new videos coming out. I'm going to start posting on Saturdays and Wednesdays to keep this consistency. And yeah, hope you like what you heard today. Again, thanks for watching, and see you next time.